Hello, I am here to talk to you today about creating challenges for all students and scaffolding learning experiences so that all of our students can meet our expectations. So how do we do that? How do we create challenges for all of our students? And how do we scaffold those experiences so that all of our students are meeting our expectations? One strategy is to make sure that we have total participation. That's essential. How do we do that? How do we have total participation? One of the things we know that when we have that total participation, it creates higher order thinking, which leads to the development and growth of critical thinking skills, which is what we really want in higher education. So I'm going to talk to you today about 4 different instructional techniques that you can employ in your classroom to create total participation, which will allow you to create challenges for all students and scaffold instruction. The first one I want to talk about is a quick write. So how do you do that? Well, this can be done at any time during the lecture. You can stop, ask a question. For example, for the next 3 minutes, write down your reflections on. For me, I did this in my Foundations in Special Education class. I asked them to reflect on writing an individualized education program. Various ability levels of students can respond. There could be some real depth from your higher ability students. There could be maybe some simple responses, but it allows that instruction to be scaffolded and it allows everyone to respond. And the expectation is that everyone will respond. Are you going to have students that are poor writers? Yes, you are. So their responses could be much simpler. But again, you want total participation, and it's going to help you know as a professor, as you reflect, okay, what areas do I need to touch on and go deeper so I make sure that everyone understands it? Is there key vocabulary that you want to use? You can require that of your students as they do that quick write. Now remember, you're not requiring a certain number of words. They're simply writing for 3 minutes. If you do this during class, you can do it at the end of class. You can also do it during class. If you do it during class, then you can also add on to it and do a think, pair, share, where you have students share with each other. This deepens their thinking, allows them to share their reflections with each other. You can even go deeper and have them share someone else's reflection with the class. Another one that I have done is I ask my students to write a reflection on the key differences between an individualized education program, a service plan, and a choice plan for students with disabilities. It can also be used as a way for students to analyze their metacognitive thinking processes. For example, reflect on the process of conducting this experiment. This you would do at the end of class. Or reflect on the process of writing this essay. So that's a quick write. The next technique I want to talk about is a one-word summary. Now, I have to tell you, this is one of my favorites. Students select one word that best describes the content presented that day. They write it on a piece of paper, or they can even write it on their desks with a dry erase marker, or they can write it on a discussion thread on Blackboard. I've actually done this all 3 ways, and it's been extremely successful. Students are then, after they write that one word, they are required to explain their rationale for that one word. Why is that word important enough to use as a one-word summary for the content learned? You can do it at the end of a class period. You can do it partway through the class. And then you can also do it, one of the ways that I have used this at the end of J term, I had students on a piece of paper write one word in their response to the content learned through all of class on J term. Then they had to write their rationale for choosing that word around the word. And again, it challenges all students, but it really scaffolds instruction. I had some incredibly deep critical thinking of the content. And then I had some that was perhaps a little simpler in their thinking, but again, all ability levels of students could engage in this activity, and it challenged all of them. I've also used it on a discussion board where students had to write their one-word summary, their rationale. The rest of the class had to respond to that one-word summary. I've also used it after reading a chapter. And again, you have to allow that thinking time for students to be able to think through what word do I want to use and then explain their rationale. Okay, so one-word summary. We have quick write, one-word summary. The next one is simile speaking. This is a thinking strategy used to engage students in analyzing information and making new connections. It stretches the brain, it fosters deeper and more divergent thinking. So think about the concept you're teaching. You can show pictures, photos of four different objects, or you can actually have the objects in the class. I actually use the objects in the class. So each student chooses an object, either in the picture or actual object, and completes a simile, such as blank is like blank because of blank. Students can either share their similes in small groups with the whole class, depending on the size of the class, or on a Blackboard discussion thread. So here's an example. My seniors are reading a book on current issues in special education. They read and were to respond to a chapter on applied behavior analysis. Near the end of our class discussion, I displayed a small sandbox with an umbrella, a bucket, and a shovel, a rake, an Adirondack chair, and shells. Here are just a couple of the similes that I received. ABA is like the chair because it helps support the child and make them feel more comfortable with where they are at. ABA is like the shovel because it equips students and teachers with the tools to engage and learn to the best of their abilities. Now I want to read the last one because you can see the growth and depth of the thinking of the students in this class. ABA is like the umbrella because it is not one specific intervention, but an approach to addressing behavior that can include a variety of interventions such as positive reinforcement, behavior reduction, and replacement behaviors. So that really showed me the depth of their understanding of what they had just read in that chapter. And then finally, so we've had quick write, one word summary, simile speaking, and the last one is a new one that I just tried and I loved it. I'm excited to share it with you. Give one, get one. It creates connections among students regarding information learned. Also, it gets students on their feet and moving. So each class member gets a 3x5 card and is asked to respond in writing to a prompt. Then music is played, students walk around the room until the music stops. So you have to be okay with students getting up and moving. And I always say right now, socially distanced. Each person finds a partner. They read their card to their partner and they listen as the partner shares their card. Then the partners exchange cards and circulate around the room again until the music stops. The process is repeated. So now they're sharing someone else's card. Then they exchange cards again. I actually just did this yesterday. Everyone exchanged cards 3 times. Then we had a class discussion and they shared the card that they ended with. It was not their own. Then I asked students to talk about what connections did they make with their own teaching, what aha or epiphany did they have from a classmate, and it just garnered further discussion. So these are the strategies that I wanted to share with you today that can challenge all students and scaffold their learning. Thank you for your time.